Hi, and welcome to Women in Business. I am joined this week by the amazingly awesome Stuart Millington, who is clearly not a girl. He may be a girl, but that's fine. But not a girl, which is all good. But the thing is, women in business isn't just about our perspective. And while we certainly don't need people to champion us or speak on our behalf, that balanced perspective is super important. And let's face it, if we're going to be working as a single entity, as a single awesome small business, medium business, and as, I suppose, balanced enterprise, then all the voices are really super important. And Stuart has a slightly different and unique view on the world. Stuart, welcome.
Thank you, Jackie. That's a great introduction.
Well, you can't let everything out of the bag right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay. So when it comes, obviously, women in business, I said, Stuart, what do you reckon? And you went, okay,
Yeah.
sure. Now, you run Bluebird, obviously, Bluebird Technology Consulting. What is that actually all about? Because it could kind of be anything.
It really could. The name doesn't really suggest a lot, but it is it is an IT company who focuses on the medical industry. Our key focus is for doctors, GPs, aged care facilities, private hospitals, and NDIS organisations. We really want to focus on helping those people.
But why those people?
I'm a firm believer in helping. That's why I do volunteer work. And the way I look at IT is when you're doing IT, you're helping people. The idea is doctors, nurses, and clinical staff, they're all helping people. So if they've got problems, we can help the people that help others. And I think to me, that's such a rewarding thing.
Yeah, I mean, because IT, you could do anything really, isn't it? Everything from twiddling with keyboards right the way through to great big user interfaces and all the rest of it.
Absolutely.
So do you find within your client base that there is a particular skew one way or the other to the women you work with more women than with men? Is it very similar? Or
Yeah,
what do you find?
no, absolutely. I find a lot of our practices will have a female practice manager as the head role or the point of contact. And when it's dealing with the doctors, it is a fairly good mix. But we tend to find that the female doctors in particular are the older doctors as well,
Right.
or they're really, really young. There seems to be a gap because of the way it's been explained to me is when a doctor does all their study and then they've got to do more to become a GP, they get to the point where people start looking at, do we have children now? Do we, settle down with kids? And then they've got that period where they have everyone has their kids, and that's where it gets a bit harder, I guess, in that sense, because it's then all just male dominated from probably about 30 to 50 age gap from what I've seen.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because when we talk about women in business, you assume, of course, that particularly in small business, that when women do choose to have their families, it ends up being this juggle between the small business and their commitment, I guess, if you like, to their families, and they become the primary caregiver. Though not always. They often become the primary caregiver. So it's interesting that you're seeing that reflected in the staffing, and also, do you find that the practice managers, if you have a female-led practice, that they still have that gap? They're an older, or does that sort of kind of even itself out?
I tend to find that evens itself out. I don't know what it is in particular, but the ones that I deal with in particular, they're probably in that age group of 30 to 45 as well. Um, and yeah, every one of them, except for one that I can think of, is female. But they've all got kids and are working, or have time off with kids and for school periods and things like that.
Mm. So the business owner or the business lead, if they're female, tends to be still involved in the business, still leading their business, still managing their businesses, whereas the staff tend to take the break. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, that's pretty much right. Yeah, exactly. The doctors themselves, from what we've seen, tend to be the ones that are having that break, and then they get back into the industry when they've at a point where they feel like I'm able to allow the kids, or I can have the kids now going into childcare, or they're at school and I can work the school hours.
Mm. Interesting. I never even thought about that till you just put it out there.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to working, I guess in this space, you work, and both of your team members are both boys, which is
Yep.
not their fault. Um, but that's not always been your experience in IT, has it? We assume, I guess the easy thing to do is to assume that IT is a male-dominated field, and
Absolutely.
that's the same as my background. Has that been your experience?
Absolutely. And I've come across many people in IT that have been very narrow-minded about that as well. No, we need to hire the male that does this or the male that's been in for so long. It's not been, I need to hire the right person for the job. I know the person I want because I've got four of them sitting behind me kind of thing. It's always been very, very hard, I've found. Just getting into IT is hard enough, but being a female and getting into IT is even harder for some places, especially in the industry where I am with the managed services. It's not a big organisation. It's usually companies that have 3 or 4 people, and they just focus solely on we've got to have boys in the team or guys in the team or whatever, and that's just where they tend to go. It's very strange.
Well, it's not like you don't want to say the old days when to actually physically lift a computer took two strong burly blokes and a third person to hold the door open. I mean, we're all running around with laptops which weigh 2.5 kilos now. So where's the bias coming from, do you think?
I think you're exactly right. I think it's the old school mentality that we see everywhere. It's just the old guard, old opinions just not changing. And it's a slow process for these younger people coming in and going, that's not right. That's not how it should be. Everyone keeps saying we want equality, we want everyone to be equal, but you've still got to get rid of those biases from the past. And it's, a slow process.
Okay. And it's an interesting thing, though, to get rid of the biases from the past. So almost we need to be starting to level the playing field or try and do something in that space to make things equal. Or is it a case of STEM in schools being those inclusive spaces, trying to say, well, hey, girls can do this too? I think there was a lot of bias, I think, for a long time about women owning and running their own businesses, being the founders of businesses as well. Is that where it needs to be done? Is it an education?
I would love to see more education or more push for that. Absolutely. There is a program in Western Australia called WITWA, Women in Technology WA. Great organisation. They do a great job. People like that, we need more of that. More people going, yes, we want to support that. We want to help that. We want that to be the way forward.
Okay. So setting up something where you're encouraging, obviously, girls to get more involved in technology or girls to get more involved in entrepreneurship or things in that space is a start. Does that level the playing field, though? Does that create a subset or almost a reverse bias?
I don't think we're at the point yet where it's a reverse bias yet. I do think, sure, I can understand that if you keep going that way, you'll get to a point where it tips over to the other side, and then you have the reverse bias. But I think at this point, we're so far behind to get to that point, it's going to take a very long time for that to happen.
Okay, so creating spaces for just girls.
This is tough. Okay. No, this is the other side of it. I don't like the segregation in that regard either. I don't like saying this job is only for this group of people, this group of whatever. I don't think that's the right way to do it. I think for me, in my mind, the best person for the job is the person that gets the job or should get the job. And it doesn't matter if they're male, female, non-binary, whatever they choose to be. That shouldn't come into play at all, but unfortunately it still is. And that needs to be eradicated. Whether that means creating what's the word I'm looking for? Creating special exclusive training for females, non-binary males. I don't think that's the right answer at all. But I do think something needs to change so that females do have that option to be able to go, yes, I want to do this. And I'm not going to be made to feel bad that I'm a female and I'm in a male dominated industry.
Hmm. Is that what it's about? Is it more about creating the idea that it's possible and then removing the barriers that make it, for want of a better word, scary or too confronting or seems too difficult?
Yeah, I could totally understand how it could be confronting or scary or difficult because it is such a heavy male focused industry, and changing that, you've got to have a real social shift, I think, and it is happening slowly. Particularly, like if you look at movies, for example, the typical nerd person is usually a teenage boy, and that's how it's been drilled in from movies, from TV shows, even music. They have, it's the nerdy boy. It's not a nerdy girl or a geeky girl, and if it is, it's always made to look like the bad person, like in a very negative
Mm.
light. It's You've really got to remove that stigma, and it's going to take a long time to do that.
So, how do you normalize a woman business owner or a woman in tech or a neurodiverse woman or a non-binary diversity? Or, I mean, is there a way you could do it without swinging the pendulum completely one way and then allowing it to come back?
The only way I can see it ever working is with people not looking at gender or focusing on that side of it, because you really need to focus on what the attributes are that the person's contributing. Really, if you want to have a successful business, you've got to have people that will be ones to help you grow, not people that I'm filling my quota of X people because I need that. And unfortunately, we see a lot of it where you need to have 10% of the workforce to be a certain type. And people go, yeah, tick that box, move on to the next thing. But it's not helping. It's just ticking a box, and that's not the answer. So it's removing that requirement to have a certain, you've got to have a certain percentage or whatever. Once you remove that, then it's a different story. You're going, I'm now focusing on the person that deserves the job is getting the job. I appreciate that it is hard and scary for people that are trying to get into a very hard industry that is heavily focused on the male population, for example. But until those older people realise this is not the way forward, I can see the business growing if I have the right people. It doesn't matter who it is. That's what we need to change. Changing that mindset of the right person has to be a white male that's 30, 6'4", and everything I'm not, basically. So
Yeah, I was about to say, you and I don't make it over the 6'4". I barely make it over. I don't even come close to 6. Yeah, absolutely. All righty, we're going to take a quick break, and what I want to talk to you about when we get back is that why so many women are deciding, bugger it, I'm just going to run my own business, is because it's so hard to break into an industry. They get the experience that they need, they get the qualifications that they need, and they say, you know what, jam it, I'm doing it myself. I must admit, I absolutely love bringing the Women in Business show to you all. We have these great conversations with people, but you can't do these things alone, much like so much in small business. Going it alone, like the old African proverb says, you want to go fast, you go alone. You want to go far, you go together. And as a result, we've partnered with Lance Hall from EBATS Accounting. Now, Lance, I use him personally. He's absolutely awesome. He's definitely your better business accountant. If you're looking for someone you can actually have those conversations with, sometimes those uncomfortable conversations that you just think, oh, geez, I actually haven't had my best year ever. But I don't want anyone to judge me on that. Or you're going, you know what, actually, I've had an awesome year and I'd love to know what comes next. Lance is absolutely the best person to have that conversation with. So if you want to catch up with him, book that free consultation. You can do that by going to www.ebats.au. There's a page there. Select new business. Tell Lance that we sent you, so that Women in Business sent you, or Jackie sent you. One of the two, he'll get the message. He'll give you great service, and you can see where that goes from there. So welcome back. And if you remember, just before we took that break, Stuart was talking about, and okay, I was poking Stuart and he was talking about, let's be honest, about that interesting space where you're trying to include more people, be they female, non-binary, anything in those spaces, without sounding like a complete prat in the process, ticking those boxes. And we were just about to talk about what's your thoughts around that whole, once you've got your qualifications, which of course is a real challenge for any young person these days entering, particularly a tech space. And I used to find the same thing, that whole, we want to pay you minimum wage, but we need you to have 4 years experience. Problem is you can't get the experience because you can't get it in the damn door to start with. So is the answer to have those traineeships really well reinforced to get that experience, make it compulsory for small businesses or businesses to take on trainees to get them through the space? Is that a way of doing that?
I think it is a way. I think the change with the traineeships and apprenticeship, how that all changed at the start of the year, I think that made things a lot more difficult because that's the route we wanted to go down. Hire some juniors because we spoke to people and they've said, exactly as you just mentioned, I want to be in IT, but I can't because they want me to have a minimum 2 years experience, but no one's going to give me that experience. I'm like, well, that's not right. We need to fix that. So we went down the route of how do we find somebody a traineeship and put them on that and go through it. We went through a big lengthy process to find that out and then found that it was too hard and it's easier just to hire the person and train them and build them up from there. It's not having that opportunity for people to get in the door, I think, is the biggest mistake in the IT industry, to be honest.
I mean, IT, it's not particularly creative. From what it didn't look creative from the outside anyway. I appreciate that you have solved my problems, several of my problems, rather creatively, but it doesn't seem like that. And I, to be honest, although I love my tech, the whole idea of IT doesn't excite me even slightly. So even if you sort of kind of said, hey, come on over, we need more girls, let's go. I mean, I'm a reasonably intelligent person. I'm pretty well educated. I've got a science background. So theoretically, I kind of fit into that group. But IT is like, really? No. And is that my bias? Is that my, I guess, my own bias that I have, the assumptions around that? It's a bit like having accountants. Now, we shouldn't be too mean to accountants because EBATS is one of our awesome sponsors. So, Lance, if you're listening, you rock. Don't take this personally. Accountants are
it's
awesome.
All the other ones.
It's the other accountants, all the other accountants. Yeah, exactly. So, is it that we also take our biases forward into what we can do from a business point of view?
Potentially, absolutely. Like you said, IT's not sexy. It's not exciting. We sit in front of a computer all day and fix problems. You've got to have that mindset of why. You've got to just keep asking why. Why does that not work? Why is it broken? And then it's, all right, how do I fix it? How did I fix it? And what made it work this time that it didn't work the last 6 times when I tried it? And the average, turn it off and back on again. If you've got that patience, it's great. And it is a great industry to be in because technology is constantly evolving. You can't just go, yep, I know IT now, I'm going to sit back. I've been in IT for 22 years and every day I learn something new. It's so important to be constantly learning something. So you need to show that to people. You need to say, this is not an industry that's going to be stagnant. Everything is changing, and what you learn today may not apply in 6 months' time.
When someone changes whatever the heck they're changing.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so on that, because we touched briefly before on the segregation of things and having things which are just for girls or just for neurodiverse or just for fill in the blank. I'm not sure is actually the answer. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think it's the answer at all. I'm very much against that kind of having that, because that is creating segregation. You're saying it's only for these people. That doesn't solve anything. You're just now got a minority that you're focusing on. And I think everyone should be treated exactly the same. The whole point of humanity is everyone's treated equally. How can they all be treated equally if you're focusing on one area and just going, that's the one we want to care about right now? That's our focus because the media is now saying these are the people that are in need. Everybody's in need, and it's now about changing the whole attitude of, yes, we need to help people, but while we need to help these people and these people, everyone still needs help. So, yeah, focusing on one key area, I don't think is the right answer. I don't have the right answer. I'm not smart enough for that, but I don't think how we're doing it's right.
Because that sort of kind of touches on one of my pet subjects, which is the difference between equality and equity. And that if we take that equality thinking, everybody should be presented with the same opportunity. Everybody should be given $2. Everybody should be whatever, whatever that everybody gets the same thing. Then I think you're in a space where you're going to reinforce those differences. Because if I give, for example, you and I classic, we're a similar height, which is a little under tall. If you give me, a 1 foot tall box to try and see over a fence, I mean, the building that we work in, as you can see from your windows in the background and my windows in the background, I can't see in the damn windows.
Yeah.
So it's a case of, like this. So if you lowered all the windows, and I could see in too, but everybody else wanders around and they can see in everybody else's offices. So I would need to carry around a box about this high. But you'd need to carry around a box about that high. I'd need to carry around a box about this high. So if you gave us both the same size boxes, I still wouldn't be able to see in the window, though we'd all be the same. We'd both be, X amount higher. I would need a box twice as high as you, as opposed to something the same.
That does change though, because now we're talking about a physical thing, whereas for me, IT is all a mental thing. And I think everyone can learn the same things if you've got a willingness to learn. I could have become a doctor if I was willing to put the hours in and the effort in, but I wasn't. So that's a limitation that I've created for myself. That's not a limitation on anyone else. So, yeah, from a technical point of view, that's where I'm coming from, where I don't think you can say this job's for this person because they need to focus on that area. I think everyone can focus on that same thing because it's a mental thing. If you want to do it, I don't think there should be any barriers to stopping you doing it.
But what if we're not starting from the same starting point?
Oh, absolutely. We're not starting. There's a lot of people in the community that aren't starting from the same starting point. It's having the opportunity to get to that starting point, though. There are so many people that will be behind, but if they're given the opportunity to start at square one, then I think they should have that opportunity. But I don't think that's saying everyone is now boxed into this side of the community now needs to be up to here. That's something that should be done at an educational level from day one, when kids are in primary school, daycare even. Everyone already starts at that one starting spot there.
Yeah. And do you think that's where it starts? It's back in that space where, because I mean, when babies are born, according to some reading and bits and pieces have been done, we're only afraid of two things. You're afraid of loud noises and falling.
Yep.
Every other bias is learned. Every other assumption is learned as we go along, and we get exposed to it from such an early thing. Is that where the changing in social media, the changing in popular media, the way we show what's possible, is that where that starts, do you think?
I absolutely do. Absolutely. It's and it's getting younger and younger. We didn't have social media when we were younger.
No.
Even my eldest daughter didn't have social media when she was younger, or it was just coming out about that point. But now my youngest child, social media is everywhere. She doesn't have it, but it's everywhere. It's just accessible to everybody, and that's good and bad at the same time. It's great to have so much knowledge. So much knowledge is wasted. I could sit on anything at the moment and just look at memes all day, and that's a day wasted. But I could do it.
Or a day invested in your mental health, one of the two.
Yeah. Take it how you like. Yeah.
Okay, so you've got social media and popular media, so that's we're looking at our movies. Is that where those role models need to be, where we start to see women as leaders? I mean, I'm watching a Netflix series at the moment, which is called Billions, and that is completely, in a lot of cases, dominated by the guys. But they've really, really made an effort. We've got while most of the analysts are male, there is female analysts. There is people taking a very strong role. Two of the quants, including the person who runs a parallel organisation, they're all in this space. And of course, one of my favourite actors, which is Age Kate Dillon, actually plays one of the characters in there, and she is identified by Bible as non-binary, and that's exactly how she plays in the. And they've gone to great effort to use appropriate pronouns, to use appropriate scenarios, to show the fluidity in her attraction as just part of the character that she is and part of who she is. Is that a way of starting to break down this perception of what is and isn't appropriate? Women fell into business, women running businesses, women within tech, in those male-dominated fields?
The way that society is, I think it is definitely important to start there. Absolutely. I hand on my heart believe we pay too much money to football players, movie actors, actresses, sports players in general. We spend millions of dollars on these people when the money could be spent somewhere better else to help educate and show that, look at this scientist here or this person that started their own business. Let's focus more on that than $60 million to a person that throws a football down the field every day. You know, it's crazy that that's where our focus is because of that male-dominated, big burly thing that people go, that's worth throwing a football, 30 yards in American football, for example. That's $50 million. There you go. It's just insane.
Well, we are starting to see that things turn a bit more with women's sport.
Yes.
And I'm not quite sure how that goes as far as, you've got to be either this or this, because that's the way sport is. So how everything else goes together, I'm not quite sure. I'm not even going to start with that. It's a completely different session. So I think we're starting to see that. But again, the pay equity is very different. But we're certainly making inroads into it.
Absolutely. But I think the males should be, in my mind, should be paid the same rate that the females are paid right now.
There would be a war.
It would be 100% would be insane. People would go nuts. But how can somebody justify paying one person that much money and everyone focuses on that when there's so many different things in the world that we could be focusing on to increase awareness of other things or creating this equality or equity for everybody? I just cannot get my head around how it could be easily justified to say that person deserves $50 million and everyone's going to watch that person for a month or for a year. And then no one has this opportunity to go, you should be focusing on women advancing in technology, women becoming business owners. I don't know the stats personally, but I imagine there'd be, I would expect there'd be more females that are business owners in small businesses than there is male ones. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I'd like to find out, but just from what I've seen, there seems to be. Or maybe I'm hanging around these people. I don't know.
Well, one of the things I've noticed, particularly working with startups recently, is that the women who are involved tend to be exactly what you're seeing within your medical practices, is the older women who've done the traditional, my obligations or things I think I'm expected to do, then are out of the way. I've always wanted to. And the businesses are very heart-centered. They're very service-focused. I'm not saying, we're drawing great big broad brushes here. I'm probably getting got a whole stack of, you shouldn't say that, things come through. But you know what I mean?
I'll get it.
But it is really interesting the way the demographic works at the moment. But we're also seeing a lot of young women, particularly in non-traditional areas, are going, you know what, I can't get in there, so bugger it, I'm going to do it myself. Which I think is an interesting thing because, and how we support that, and those of us who've been, done a few turns around the planet now, how do we do that without creating special spaces? Because I agree with you that I think the special spaces, they might have a place, but they can't be all there is.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Somehow I think we have a responsibility to create environments where everyone is welcome, which means that I think there's two things going on. We need to find spaces and people to populate them who are also thinking in that, which means we've also got to challenge some of the previous assumptions in some way, modify those back into a space that's more inclusive, more balanced.
Balanced is a good word for it, yes.
And I would love to see, I mean, my experience when I was obviously not obviously, but I was a geologist working in mining industry, and I love mining construction. I really, really love working in that environment. And I've always been one of the very few females within the space. And what I found super interesting was when I was interviewing for roles, the difference between two really big mining houses, the way they were approached. Now, I may have been slightly braver in my interview at the ripe old age of 21 because I already had the other job. That is possible. That is possible. But a young HR lass, I use the term with the utmost respect, with a teeny tiny skirt, sitting in and I'm thinking, and initially I thought, really, how are you showing up like that? Which, of course, is me making assumptions. I mean, she should be able to wear it what the hell she wants, let's be honest. Yeah. And we're talking, a good number of 30 plus years ago. Let's be honest. That's not quite.
I was going to say 3 or 4 years ago. Come
thanks. On. But, so we're talking, but so she's got this tiny little skirt on. And she's got her legs and her knees like locked together. It must be something she either practiced a lot or concentrated on, because any other move would have been quite interesting and disastrous. Because we weren't sitting in a boardroom, we were sitting in a motel room, or a hotel room, which was unusual, but it was all FIFO, so that was fine. And we went through the usual stuff and the usual questions and can you identify these rocks and how would you, the usual science. Yes, basically I know which way up the planet goes sort of kind of stuff. And then she said, have you got any questions? And I said, no, not really. We're pretty much going, no, this is not for me. And she's gone, well, I just wanted to let you know that we're an equal opportunity employer. I've gone, okay, cool. As you would expect. So we're going to take 6 graduates, and so we'll be taking 3 girls and 3 boys. And I looked at her and said, how is that equal opportunity? And she said, because we're taking an even number of each. And I said, I looked at her and I said, well, she goes, you're looking confused. And I said, well, not so much confused. And she's gone, let me explain. So what we're trying to do is equal the playing field. And I'm thinking, if that had coming from a guy, it's like, don't mansplain me. But she was like,
mansplaining,
little tiny. Anyway, I should be nice to her, but she's probably gone into great things. But it was just really interesting. She was beautifully made up. The hair was perfect and the whole. And I'm thinking, all right. And of course, there's me in my suit because geologists wear suits. Anyway, and I said to her, but how is that equal opportunity? And she goes, well. And she just looked at me stunned. And I said, because surely equal opportunity means that whoever is the best person for the role is employed. And if you happen to end up with 6 boys or 6 girls or 5 boys, she goes, no, that's not equal. And I'm thinking, no, you're missing the opportunity part. But anyway.
Yeah.
And it was just such an interesting conversation. And that whole, I'm thinking, surely that means we have the same opportunity, or we're given the same opportunity and the best person for the role.
Yes.
When you truly have reached a mature culture or a mature small business environment or whatever else, you notice but don't recognize. That's the wrong way to put it, but you know what I mean? That whole the fact that you happen to be a bloke or you happen to be a girl doesn't actually matter.
Absolutely.
So interesting.
From a mathematical point of view, I guess she's correct.
Because we had 17 people graduating with honours in my class. 2 of us were girls. 1 was in general science. So I was effectively 1 out of 16 graduating with honours females. So how is it equitable or equal opportunity for them to try and take 3 girls? Because there's a whole bunch of blokes who would potentially be much, much better at the role than the girls that they employed.
Yep.
Because back to what you were saying at the beginning of this thing, you were ticking a box and you were saying, yes, that's what we need to do.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely. It's probably the same company I was thinking of.
Well, I don't know if they're not the company that I used to work with, but who are also based in the Pilbara. How's that?
Yeah.
It does narrow it down. Because there was less companies up there at the time. There was only the 2. So, okay, grab a quick break, refresh our drinks, and then I want to talk to you about the future. So as well as Women in Business, I have a membership, which is just one of my favourite things to do in the world, where we have a group of women and a few men, mostly women, who come together and assist each other within a community to become leaders within their space. So if you'd like to join us, our membership opens soon. We've got a wait list. I'd love to see you come on board. You can either pop across and join our Facebook group, which is Amplify Your Audience. There'll be a link below. And if you'd like to join the membership, we also have a bit of a wait list. We only open just 3 times a year. So the wait list for that is currently running, and I'd love you to pop over to the Arkamari website, which is www.arkamari, and I'll spell it, arkamori.com.au. There'll be a button right there on my homepage, and it'll say join the waitlist, and then we'll get you in that sequence, and you'll know immediately that that opens again. Okay, and welcome back. We are back with Stuart from Bluebird Technology and Consulting. I always get your name backwards. I always go Consulting and Technology, but it's not. It's very clearly Bluebird Consulting. No, Bluebird Technology and Consulting. Technology comes first. Got it. Gracious.
Maybe we should just
there you go.
shorten it.
We just call you Bluebird from now on. It'll be fine. You can be, you could be a chip company. It'll be fine. There's some non-bias for you. Yeah. Cool. So we were talking before the break about leveling the playing field, and while we're not specifically talking about women running businesses, the women obviously within our businesses, particularly our medium-sized businesses, can get a little lost along the way. Now, you have a kind of slight bias in this space, because what we haven't told everybody yet is, of course, you are the very proud and indulgent dad of 4 lovely young ladies, who I'm sure I always find very lovely, but I'm sure that you would suggest have their moments. Yeah. And what is that range, 15 to 2?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 15 years old down to 2. And in my mind, it never really occurred to me that it would be any different either. I have 2 sisters, so I've grown up with girls my whole life. Dad was always working.
So you're the
I'm the odd one out, yeah. So I'm used to it, and I can have those discussions with my girls that most males tend not to want to have, particularly my dad. He's very much of we don't talk about that. As we've discussed in the past, that's the older mentality of the adults that go, I don't want to know about that story, and things like that.
I mean, I adore my dad to the, I'm very, very lucky. If I wanted to walk to the moon and I said to him, hey, I'm going to walk to the moon, he'd go, okay, why is that? Yep. And then I would tell him why I wanted to walk to the moon, and he'd go, well, is it? And I have absolutely no doubt that I would be able, if I was going to walk to the moon, he would be 6 steps behind me just in case I fell over. And he wouldn't have to have a good reason. But if I had a good reason,
that's good enough.
You know, and it makes you quite brave, I think, to have somebody who believes in you. And even if you completely screw up, that doesn't, you can go and hide under your bed and go, oh, Dad. And he goes, let's talk it through. Let's do whatever else. Yeah, so, to have that relationship. But he's Cornish. And there is no way, no how we are talking any girl stuff. Yeah. That's just not on the table. We are not having those discussions. We're not anything in that space. Like, as much as I adore him, I can't imagine the dad I grew up with. And he is a different man now. Yeah. But the dad that I grew up with, having that conversation about, I'm also one of 2 girls, so my dad didn't have any daughters, and 2 older sisters. But I can't imagine growing up in an environment where having that conversation is like, Dad, I've hit a glass ceiling, or Dad, they won't let me play. He would have just gone, I can get your big girl pants on, and that would have been the entire conversation, though. There would have been none of this other stuff. There, off you go. So it's interesting, isn't it? So how do you go with the girls?
Very, very much the same. We try to encourage our daughters that there is no limit on what they want to do. We will back them 100%. And we went to a interview for our eldest daughter when she was in year 7, and they asked her, what do you want to do when you're older? And she said, I want to be the first Indigenous Prime Minister of Australia. And they said, oh, that's awesome. What do you think your limitations are to get there? And she sat there and thought about it and she goes, I don't think I've got any. And the teacher turned around and said, why don't you think that? And then we turned around and said, because we encourage our kids. There is no limit to that kind of stuff. If you want
Yeah.
to do it, if you set your mind to it and want to do it, you should be able to achieve it. There should be no glass ceiling that stops you from that. And every one of our kids has that instilled in them from 2 right through. They know that if they want to do it, they can. I mean, the 2-year-old obviously has a temper tantrums and the naughty twos and wants to do it all, but that's a different story.
Well, we all have different techniques with coping with stress.
Yes.
And the word no.
No, yes, very true.
So that's a really interesting point, though. Do you think... Now, this isn't something we've obviously thought of. I'm just thinking out loud here, so tell me to bugger off is perfectly acceptable. But, and I won't even edit it out, but the thing is, you can instill in your children and your sisters and your brothers and whoever else, but you can instill in your children that whole, there is nothing in your way, get on with it, you can do this, you can do this. But what happens when a young girl with that belief meets the resistance of a biased culture?
Absolutely. That is super hard. And we've seen it, personally seen it quite a lot. And the answer is, okay, how do we get past it? What's caused that to happen? And let's find a solution, or you find a solution to get past it. We can be there to help you and support you, but we're not going to give you the answers, but we will be there to help you. And don't just throw your hands up and say, that's it, I've reached what I did and I give up. Keep pushing, find out, okay, that didn't work, now I'll go to plan B, I'll go to plan C, just like every business owner. Plan A didn't work, I'm going to try plan B until something works.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's how we encourage our children if they hit that brick wall.
And do you find that they band together to beat things? I mean,
each other.
I'm just thinking, to beat each other. I'm just thinking, I think Hadley could be used as a sonic weapon, to be honest.
Yes.
But that could be just my bias. But do you find that they move as a pack?
They tend to from time to time. It depends on the situation. If it's something that they're very protective of each other when they need to be. But that's when I see them work together, or they've made a mistake and they've done something to the other child, they will walk away, have their moment, and then come back and apologise. It's that kind of bonding that I think is really, really good to see from the girls.
And do they show any interest in running their own parts of the world? Obviously, running for PM is one thing.
Yeah.
And I would love to see that. I think she'd be absolutely phenomenal in that role.
Really,
God help everybody who gets in her way.
Absolutely. I think she would nail that role. But now she's a bit older. She wants to join the Air Force. She wants to be a pilot. She wants to do all different things. But I, hand on heart, believe that nothing will stop her. She wants to do something. She will get there and do it.
But they're both leadership roles.
Absolutely.
Whether it's leading a country or defending the country, they're definitely both very male dominated and also very strong leadership roles.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Very, very focused on what it is. So for her to go, I'm going to get in there and change that as well is, I couldn't ask more as a father. It's such an awesome thing to see. My second eldest child, she is in the SES. She wants to continue being in the SES when she's older. Every time she's dyslexic, and every time she asks, what's this job entail? Do I have to go to uni? Yes, I'm not doing that then. So she'll find something else. But she has this want to help people, be it, like I said, with SES, or she wants to be a vet, and I had to explain to her, even as a vet, you have to go to university and things like that. But she has that want. The third child's probably not at the right age to know what she wants yet. She's quite happy just to sit on her iPad and play Roblox, to be honest. So when she's a bit older, she does a really good job of video editing herself. So that may be something that she could potentially look into. She hasn't thought about it herself yet, but I think that's the kind of path that she'll go to. And yeah, once again, she'll have our full support. She'll know that there is no stopping her. If she wants to do it, she can do it.
Yeah.
2-year-old
And
scream.
and at 2, you can do anything you damn well want to.
Yeah, that's right.
At great volume.
Absolutely.
That's phenomenal. I mean, have you seen the world changing around the girls between obviously your oldest, the groups and the way things are around them? Have you seen that change?
From a holistic whole view, yes. Like with, like we said earlier, with social media, things like that has changed. The group of friends has changed. It's everything is constantly changing. At one point, there was no need or want for a mobile phone, for example. Nowadays, everyone needs to have or want a mobile phone. Do they need it? No. Do they want it? Yes, because everyone else does. So, yeah, it is definitely changing. And from a male-female point of view, I'm finding, particularly with the girls, compared to when I was younger, they have a lot more male-female friends that are actual friends, and they're not boyfriend girlfriend. They're legitimate friends. Whereas when I was that age, that was, the girls are over there and they've got cooties, we don't go near them, kind of thing.
Yeah, I must admit, I had a huge amount. I was an air cadet, and most of my friends were blokes because the girls were stupid. I just was thinking, oh, really? Hair, makeup. Come on, let's get some stuff here. And I remember my dad saying to me at one stage, all of a sudden, it was like, because it was just me and my dad, and all of a sudden it was like he suddenly realised that I was a girl, because I've always been the closest thing he's got to a son is me.
Yeah.
And we used to do all sorts of, building this and crashing through that and, all that stuff. But I remember really clearly one weekend, and I said, "Oh, look, we're going to head up with up to the Karankahahe Valley, do some prelim stuff." I was an officer, or NCO, do some prelim stuff and get some this organised for the basic cadets to come through, in a month's time. And he's gone, yeah, who's going? And I listed off the people, and he looked at me and he goes, "They're all boys except for Alison." And I went, "Yes." He's gone, "Oh. I said, they're exactly the same people I always knock around with." And he's gone, "Okay." I would have been 16 at the time. "Oh, okay." It was like he had to do this mental readjustment of it was like something I had done had suddenly dawned on his perception. It was something to change his perception of who I was. It was like, and back to that whole, the conversations which we did or didn't have with my father, I couldn't now, my kids would turn around and go, "It's not like I'm sleeping with them." They would have that throwaway comment.
Yep.
That comment not only wasn't, let alone wasn't said, it never crossed my mind to say. It was just like, that was not something we should just part of our conversation.
Yeah.
But it was funny as. But and it's interesting. So, do you think that with the change of the social group, that who mates are, and that lack of expectation that a girl and a boy as friends must be partners, that they see each other as equals.
Yeah.
Do you think that's going to make a change for things as they're going forward?
I do. I think other parts, and this is from a father's point of view, other things need to change as well. If I go talking to somebody saying, "Oh yeah, my daughter's friends with that boy," the first thing they nearly instinctively say is, "Are you watching that, or are you going to get the shotgun ready for that," or stuff like that. And that's something you'd say 50 years ago and think that's okay.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be encouraging that protection of your daughter. I trust my daughters wholeheartedly. If they're not ready to do something or uncomfortable about doing something, they won't do it. They will flat out just refuse. They're very strong-willed, and to their credit, they get that from their mother, how strong-willed they are. And I think it's an amazing trait for them to have.
Yeah. It's interesting, though, because then, of course, that opens the question of, oh, yes, but what if they get taken advantage of? What if they get overpowered? It's like, dude, there has to be more to a relationship than just that little piece.
Absolutely.
There. At some stage, we have to inherently trust.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is in business as well. We have to, it's like, I'm not going to do business with any boys because they might take advantage of me. It's like, hang on a minute. Let's think about that. And when we come back to obviously women in leadership positions, women who get a whole stack of names and everything thrown at them. Oh, geez, your daughter's bossy, isn't she? No, she is a future leader.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the no. Whereas if it was a guy, it's like, oh, there's the next president. Whereas the girl gets the whole, oh, geez, she's bossy. It's like, okay, some of us were bossy. Let's be honest, but we've gone on to do good things.
Absolutely. But it's that shift, isn't it, that you've got to change in people that say, yeah, exactly as you said, that guy is going to be the president. That girl is being a bitch. You need to go, it's the same thing. They're saying the exact same thing the exact same way. It's your bias towards that person that is making it worse. You need to stop that.
So if I mean, obviously, as the father of 4 girls and having this investment into an equal opportunity, in the true sense of the equal opportunity world for the girls going forward, and also as a business owner with a business that she's doing very well, but is proactively bringing in young people, I mean, into the industry, deliberately that's a financial risk for you. It's a financial commitment to you. And yes, your business is doing very well, but it could be doing,
much worse.
With the boys sitting there, but the boys sitting there learning all the very stuff at the very beginning of their career, without having 5 or 6 other people to carry the bulk of the work. That
certainly
falls to you as obviously the boys are progressively pressing it up. You've done such a great job with the girls to instill them with the confidence. Obviously, you and Kez have done such a great job with the girls to instill them with the confidence to be able to make those decisions and to be confident. I think some of it definitely comes from the fact that they know without a shadow of a doubt that you will back them.
Yeah.
So if they decided to run businesses or decided to open things up, that they would have a confidence, I guess, like I got with my dad backing me 1,000%.
Yeah.
And that mixed group that they hang around with now, well, you would like to hope that will carry forward into their professional careers, that mixed group of everybody being in a space where ideas are shared and
gender doesn't matter.
You might have a great idea, you've got an idea, but it's not like I have to speak, I'm the voice, or I've got to have the voice behind that, or anything else like that.
Yeah.
So you've created that culture around the girls and also within your business. Was there something you've done in that space which has triggered that? Or where did that come from in your world?
Okay. So for me, like I said earlier, I've had 2 sisters and mum basically at home 24/7. My first job was Department of Education in New South Wales, and my first boss was a female, and she taught me quite a lot. And I guess from the very beginning, it's never really crossed my mind that's not an option. Like, it's got to be all guys that do something, or all girls that do something. And it's not a case of all girls are staying at home in the kitchen cleaning the house or whatever. That's not how I've been raised. And I think even when that flowed into work, being the first job being taught by a female, this is exactly what I'm seeing in the real world as well. This is what I would expect from everybody. And it was when I moved down here that it changed a little bit, where I went for the job, and the first question that I was asked by the 2 females, one being the owner and the other one being the manager, was, how will you work with females as your bosses? And I thought, why does that matter? Why is that a question? That
it's been my whole life.
Yeah, exactly. This is a double day for me. It didn't make any difference at all. And seeing that as one of the key questions that was asked to me was just very confronting. And I thought, that's not how it should be. And then moved on and then started this company. And as you said earlier, with the girls already having that confidence and comfort in knowing that they're going to be supported, sharing that into, or bleeding that into the business and knowing that my staff are going to be supported, I think that's how we get other businesses going. If I'm going to grow my business, I need to trust my staff. I need them to feel confident that if they make a mistake, they put their hand up and say, I made a mistake. They don't try and hide it. I'm the first one to turn around to them and say, I'm the one that stuffed up. I did this wrong. And I fixed it because I did this, this, and this. And I think it's being able to acknowledge when you make a mistake and fixing it, that it doesn't matter who you are, you make a mistake, you admit to it. That creates that culture where people go, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to make mistakes. People do that. And it's not going to cost the business, the whole business. You made a mistake. People will understand. If you're open and honest, people are going to understand you made a mistake. I make a mistake. Everyone makes a mistake. It's okay. Things will be okay. To a degree. If you make a mistake and you lose everyone's patient data, that's a different story.
Yeah, true. So would it be fair, I'm just listening to what you're saying there and also some of the other things you've said through the discussion, is the beings, as you grew up, you were surrounded by strong and competent women. Mm-hmm. You then married a strong, competent woman. Yeah. You've got strong, competent daughters. So you were literally surrounded by, this is your normal.
Yes.
And is that what the answer is for the people who are, the women who are strong in the space, to be supported by others who recognize that strength, so that together, all of us, not just the girls, but all of us who want to see this as a normality, demonstrate that and show that, choose to actively participate and reinforce and sponsor that space, for want of a better word. Is that the way we change it? By just saying, look, hey, this is normal. I don't know what the hell you're on about, but this is the way it should be?
Absolutely. But it's also being there to support someone, because you can't be strong and independent all the time. You'll break. You need to have someone there to be that support. So I think it is great that, you hang around those people that are strong and independent, but you also need to be that other side where it's, if I'm having a bad time, I need someone there to help me with that, or I need to acknowledge that I'm having a bad time and I need someone to go, that's okay. I've had a bad time too. Let's talk about it and sort it out. Not just go, oh, well, that's your problem. Deal with it. Or the Australian tone of, should be right, mate.
That is so true. And I often wonder, and it's interesting to hear you say that, because one of the things we talk about within the women's business community, not that we're trying to segregate ourselves, but you know what I mean, is the fact that working with guys can be, the reason it's so frustrating is because there's an issue. They go, we're right, we're fine, it's fine, we're fine. And it's just like, you just know it's not okay. Whereas when you tend to get a group of women together, we do have that tendency to go, you know what, actually I had a completely shocking day.
Yeah.
And it's not that we need someone to solve the problem. Sometimes you just need someone to validate that it was a shitty day. Absolutely. That must be hard. Great, here's your beer. Mm-hmm. Right.
Absolutely.
Tomorrow's a new day. Yeah. And it's that, I think sometimes that conflict comes between the problem solving and the empathy. Yes. Sometimes that there's a tension there.
Absolutely. And I think that's still part of that old thought of males don't show their emotions. That's a thing that males don't do. They're meant to be all tough and supportive and strong and don't think about that. I think that's completely wrong. I've always thought that's wrong, but that could be because I've had that environment my whole life where it's okay if you're having a bad day and you need to cry, you cry, and it's okay. You pick yourself up and off you go. It's okay.
Yeah. You don't need someone to say, "Oh, have you got a boo-boo?"
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Not helpful.
Yeah.
Go with some dirt in it, you'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, so immersing yourself in opportunity, I think, is one of the keys to it, is saying, look, just be open to things being different and potentially not going right.
Absolutely.
And that's okay. It's not desperate. Things need to be spot on. They don't need to be perfect. They don't need to be everything else.
Absolutely. I've had plenty in this business in particular not go right. And it's okay. We're still okay.
You can just blame Google. It's fine.
It's being able to acknowledge things aren't going right. Things are going to crap right now. But I've got people to talk to. I've got a great community. In this building alone is a great community. And I can sit down and talk to people and go, I'm having a real crap day because of X, Y, Z. 9 out of 10 times you'll find someone going, oh yeah, I've been there. I've done that. Because that's the good thing about small business, and not being so focused on my business, everyone else's competition, or I'm trying to sell to everyone. It's acknowledging that I'm running the business, you're running the business. you've probably seen the same problems I have, or vice versa. Can you help
Yeah.
me? And being able to do that. And I don't think that, just looking around here, actually, it's probably incorrect. There's probably more females around here. So maybe I bounce off more females in here as well. I'm not sure.
Maybe surround yourself with awesome,
Yeah.
whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
Well, Stuart, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you did give me a strange look when I said, "Hey, I have this show called Women in Business. You want to come along?" And you went, "I'm not a girl." But I think the conversation has been really, really valuable.
Yeah.
But the other thing I would like to thank you for is being such an awesome role model for your girls. I mean, I have had the great pleasure of meeting your girls, and they are incredible women. And I think their future is going to be awesome. And so much of that is due to your decision and your choice to help in a space that helps them be brave and supporting and everything else. And I know that it's easy to say, to have that as a throwaway line, but I honestly believe that education and support is the key to solving this in a way that means we don't have the Women's Telstra Business Awards or the women this and the women in business, the women thing, and that we can just be in business.
Absolutely.
And we can just be an award, and we can stand up as a single group of incredible small business owners who are changing the world because we choose to, and because we do what we do because that's what we're drawn to do, as opposed to necessarily making money. I mean, it would be difficult to have a small mining company. I appreciate that. We need big business, but the small businesses are so important in what we do.
Absolutely.
And such a fabric of Australian society. And when they're run well, like yours is, and they're run in a way that encourages youth to be involved, but in a way that is all of the people, not just these people, I think that the world, it's just going to be a fantastic spot.
Yes.
So thank you so much,
Thank you
both for keeping me sane, having my computer, but also for what you contribute to our small business community here.
Thank you very much for having me, Jackie. I really appreciate it.
See ya.
See ya.
Now, it's really, really difficult to do a radio show such as Women in Business without fabulous sponsors. And this show is powered by Ignition app. They help you sell, bill, and get paid for your services, and they do it all in one place. So with Ignition, it's easy to engage with clients, engage with online proposals, engagement letters, automatic invoicing, payment collection, all of the things that go with actually the finance side of doing what you love to do. So the clients that you love to serve also love dealing with you because things are just simple, not complicated, even slightly. So you can start your free trial today with Ignition app, and they're offering you 50% off for 3 whole months on the Pro or the Scale plans. So if you'd like to have a chat with these guys, see what it's all about, zip down and have a look in the link below.